Stop measuring whether people see your stories. Start asking whether your story has made anyone feel something different. Start asking whether people are staying with you. Start asking whether you are activating and disrupting enough to stop them from checking out. Your stories are the most intimate selling space that you have, more than your feed, more than your emails, because you have that daily opportunity to sell to people. Welcome to Rich Work, the podcast for established female entrepreneurs ready to turn their expertise into premium clients and consistent high-ticket revenue. I'm Rachel Pearson, global brand and business strategist, skincare obsessed, and always distracted by booking the next mini break. Here you'll learn how to position like a luxury brand, attract clients who love to invest, and build wealth that actually lasts, so you can create the business and life you want, not someone else's version of success. This is where premium positioning and building wealth meet for women who are rewriting the rules. Let's get into it. This is the final episode in this mini-themed series around storytelling. Stories are one of the most underutilized ways of positioning your business, helping your potential clients to understand what you do and feel activated by what you do. And in today's episode, we're going to specifically focus on stories through Instagram. You have been told that your hottest audience are watching your stories on Instagram, and they probably are. So you may be thinking, why aren't they buying? You're consistent in what you do. You're sharing the behind the scenes, doing the polls, maybe adding the question boxes in. You're looking at what the algorithm is doing, putting the little stickers on to get some engagement, using all of the tools that Instagram has added in. And it may be that your views are fine, but the people then voting on your polls are not the ones that are going to come into your sales. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the difference between engagement and buying behavior, and that someone who is tapping on your poll is not someone who's necessarily moving closer to a purchase decision. Your stories are not selling right now because they're not stories. I'm going to explain what I mean about this, why information that you're giving out on stories is not activating those premium mindset buyers to come into your DMs and ask about ways to work with you or simply buy from you. We're going to be talking today about pattern disruption. Let's start with the metric that everyone is obsessed with around stories, which is views. I have very low views on my stories. I will be very transparent about that. I think I average between 100 as an average. I would say that they sometimes drop down to 30, 40. That's quite common for me. And I think it's important to say this because a lot of the programs and teachings out there around how to sell on Instagram stories focus on how many people are in your stories and what to do to fix those low views. I'm here to say to you, it's okay. It's okay if you don't have super high thousands of people watching your stories. It's more important about who is watching and what they are coming in to do inside those stories. How many people tap through is not a metric that I look at. I'm not bothered about how many more eyes I get on my stories. The entire conversation around Instagram stories has been about reach and getting seen and being visible. And when I look at it from the viewpoint of premium mindset clients, so those clients who are already decided that they want to make an investment, they are simply looking for who is this investment with? What is the offer that I'm investing in? They are people that are going to buy from you that are probably already watching in your stories. They're in your audience. They are tapping through your stories right now. And so it's not about how do I get more people watching? It's about why are those people that are already watching not staying long enough to feel something? That's when I said at the beginning of this episode, the reason that your stories may not be converting is because they're not stories, they're information. When I look at stories, I look at retention and not reach. And this is what makes this so important right now. I've been teaching this way around Instagram stories for a couple of years now. Those of you who've been through Influx, which is my how to sell stories to premium buyers, Influx is that program. I taught that 2 years ago and it's still relevant now. However, it has become even more relevant because of the way that the Instagram algorithm has shifted. The platform now weighs the opening moments of your content more heavily than ever. It's predicting within the first few seconds whether someone is going to stay or move on And that prediction shapes who sees your stories next and how far your stories are then traveling. So this isn't just my opinion about you need to engage people and you need to disrupt what they're doing. You need to interrupt to get their attention. The platform itself is measuring retention. It's measuring whether people complete your stories. It's measuring whether they reply, whether they DM you, whether they stay through the sequence or they drop off at slide 3. Retention is where the money is. It's where the investments are being made, because someone can see your story and feel absolutely nothing. They can tap through 10 slides and absorb none of it. I'm sure you've all been in that position where you've just been in the motion of going through somebody's stories and then actually can't remember anything that you've just watched or listened to. They can watch every single day and still not buy from you. And it's not because your offer's not for them or there's something that needs to be shifted in your sales page. It's because nothing in the experience of going through your stories interrupted their default state. They're scrolling, they're passive, they're consuming, and your stories are letting them stay there. So think about it this way. If someone's watching your stories every day and hasn't bought, the problem isn't awareness. They are aware of what you're doing. They're aware of what you're selling. The problem is that your stories aren't creating a shift. Nothing in the sequence is pulling them out of that passive watching into active wanting. And that shift doesn't come from posting more stories, thinking, how can I get more views on my stories? It's not from more information. And it certainly doesn't come from a poll asking them, which color they prefer or what's the name of my next program. It comes from disruption. Something that breaks the rhythm, something that makes them stop, really stop and pay attention differently. This is what I mean when I talk about pattern disruption as a selling mechanism. It's not a content tip. It's not, here's what to say in your stories to get people to buy. It's not, here's how to change the background color of your stories so that it keeps things fresh. It's understanding at a psychological level that buying happens when something interrupts how a person sees themselves. They change how they see their situation. They change what they see as possible. Your stories are the place where that interruption can happen daily. That is why your hottest buyers can be there. It's not because they're the most aware of your content. It's not because they like you the most. It's because they are in there daily and you have a daily opportunity to disrupt their thinking, their feeling, and activate what they see as possible for themselves. But that is if you stop treating it like something that you've got to post every day because you have to show up in stories because that's where your hottest buyers are at. Like, can we please get out of the passive motion of even just posting stories daily because that's simply what you do? So the thing that I would say about stories, and if you haven't listened to my previous episode about what really makes a great story and how it's not about relatability, it's about affinity, go back and listen to that episode. That will be hugely valuable for storytelling in general. But the thing that I will keep on coming back to about stories is that a story is not about telling information. It is about transferring an experience. When you recommend a book to someone, which book do you recommend? The one with the best information or the one that makes you feel something? Like, you are going to be recommending the book that enables them to take in the information, whether that is the story, the way the story is told, whether that is a book about a place that you are going on a trip and you want to plan the trip. If you're doing it old school through a book, then you want the information to make them feel like excited. It doesn't need to be a really dry way of going through things. So it's no news to anybody that people tend to buy with emotion and then they justify with logic. That's like nothing revolutionary for anybody here. That most people's stories are still structured entirely around logic. Here's my offer. Here's what's included. Here's the price. Here's a testimonial. Here's the call to action. Link in bio. DM me this keyword. It's not a story. It's not an experience. And adding a poll halfway through that doesn't change the experience. Adding a question box doesn't interrupt them. Those are interaction tools. They're not emotional tools. They give someone something to tap, but they're not giving them something to feel. Tapping is engagement. It's not buying. I'm not saying don't use the tools that Instagram gives you, but if your story strategy is built around those tools and those engagement features, then it's no surprise when you feel like you're getting engagement on your stories, but you're not getting those buyers come in that are saying, right, I know that I need to work with you. How can I make that happen? A story moves somebody from where they are to somewhere else, to where they want to be, to where they aspire to be. And it does it through emotion. It does it through showing, guiding, creating an experience. So here's how you bring that into Instagram stories. We're going to take the concept now that I've talked about of pattern disruption, about how you need to create an experience through your stories, about how stories are shifting somebody. They're not telling, they're not about engagement. They are about shifting into what's possible, into buying behavior. Now let's look at how that comes into Instagram stories. Your Instagram stories need a thread, not a topic. It's not, oh, I'm going to sell this offer. I'm going to talk about my one-to-one today. That's a topic. That's information. We need to look at a thread, an emotional through line that pulls someone from the first slide to the last because they're feeling something building. They're not just reading it unfolding, they feel it build. That thread, in the way that I look at stories, has 4 parts. So this is a framework that I use and I teach, and I'm going to give you the shape of it for Instagram stories because it changes how you approach the stories that you post and will give you lots more ideas for how you can take this forward. So the 4 parts that I look at with Instagram stories are curiosity, connection, desire, and demand. So stay till the end of this episode because you're going to get the download. I'm going to explain to you how you can best use it. Curiosity is why someone clicks and stays. So remember I said that the algorithm is now weighting heavily that first moment of interaction. They want an indication that somebody is engaged in your first story. So it's the opening. It's not, here's what I'm going to be covering today. That's a table of contents. It's signposting. Curiosity is a question or a statement that speaks so directly to your person that they cannot scroll past it. Those opening moments, it's not just about your audience. It's about whether the platform then decides to keep showing your content. So there's one thing about me telling you that this is so important in terms of how people buy. But if you're on Instagram, this is how the algorithm is also deciding who to push your content out to and how far it can get reach. Connection is where you show them you see where they are. It's not the surface level problem, it's the frustration underneath it. So if you haven't listened to my episode on Catalyst Client, highly recommend that you go into that because that will explain the difference between these surface level problems and the frustration and tension that sit beneath it. For premium buyers especially, this isn't about speaking to the struggle. It's not, I see where you are, you're posting and you're getting crickets, you're launching, but you're getting no inquiries. Like they don't resonate with that. They're going to scroll straight past it. It's about recognizing what they've already achieved and painting where they could go next. So connecting in with, here's where you are, here's the gap that you have, but here's where you want to take it to. Desire is where that shift happens. This is where you stop talking about what they want and start speaking to them as if they already have it. You speak to their future identity, not their current frustration. So we want to move on from connection. We've painted that picture of where they are, what's not happening for them right now, what they want. And now we're speaking to them as if this is how you already see yourself. This is what creates that emotional pull. It's not imagine having this. It's you are this person. Like directness is so important as well for a premium buyer mindset. They don't want fluff. They want you to be certain about you are speaking to them. And then demand is the 4th part, which is the activation. It's not scarcity of just 2 spots left. For premium buyers, this is about exclusivity. It's about making the invitation feel like it matches who they see themselves as. 2 spots left says anybody could take them. An exclusive additional deep dive says this is for you specifically. So this is the overall of how I look at when I'm creating my own stories. I will think about taking people on this journey. I will think about the experience that I'm creating. And I will make sure that every story that I'm creating has this follow through thread so that they stop being content that I'm delivering and it starts to be this experience that my potential clients, my people watching connect in with, that moves them, that makes them feel something as they are moving through so they're not mindlessly tapping. Now, the other layer to this is a piece that I add on. So we have curiosity, connection, desire, demand. But what most people do is they don't understand how to create an emotional experience when they are working within frameworks. And this is where pattern disruption becomes essential. It's not a design thing. It's not about making your Instagram stories look amazing. This is about making sure somebody is locked into what you're saying when they start to get into that passive place of just tapping through. The attention of somebody that's coming into an Instagram story doesn't just need to be captured at the start. You need to keep it. And the way that Instagram stories are designed is they want you to keep moving through. The way that they are so short is so that you recognize that there's a next thing coming up. The behavior that they are instilling in you is to continue to tap. So you imagine somebody that's viewing an Instagram story, their brain is already wired to look for a reason to move on to not just your story, but onto the next person's, because they've seen that little ring go round. They know that somebody has put something new up, something fresh. They're feeling the FOMO. They want to get into that. So your job is not only to get their attention and make them click on your stories. Your biggest job is to keep them there. You need to keep interrupting the impulse for them to click off and go into somebody else's story. Disruption does something deeper than just keep your eyes on the screen. So what it does is it mirrors what buying actually feels like. Buying, especially at a premium level, should feel an edge. It should feel disruptive. It's a break from the current pattern. It's someone deciding that what they have right now isn't enough and committing to something different. You may have experienced this yourself where you've made a stretchy investment. You've invested maybe in a mastermind, or you've paid more for something. Even if it's a product, maybe you've invested in a brand that you really love and it's like the first time that you buy from it. It feels different, right? It changes something in you because it's not the safe option. It's not the thing that you always buy. It's not the easy investment that you could be making. So if that's the feeling that somebody's going to get when they buy from you, we want to start creating that even in the selling experience, even in the way that they're interacting with their stories. So when I talk about disruption, I'm not talking about trendy transitions or shock tactics. I'm talking about intentionally breaking the pattern that means that somebody re-engages their attention at exactly the moment their brain is about to check out. So this could be a change in format. So if you've got 3 talking head slides, then add a sharp text slide that lands a single sentence, disrupting through format. It could be a question that stops the flow of information and asks them to think, that is confrontational. It could be showing something visually unexpected, not because it looks fancy, but because it's pulling their eye back in. It's making them look at it harder. Like I will do this where I use sometimes patterns in the background. If I've had several color block slides, then I'll use a pattern which will disrupt because it's changing what somebody is looking at. So I have a program called Influx, which goes much deeper into the mechanics of all of this, about the framework that I took you through, the specific story arcs, the visual strategy, the language shifts, the disruption approach. If you are interested in knowing more, it's well worth looking at, then you can send me a DM to find out more about Influx. But what I want you to take from this episode is this reframe. Stop measuring whether people see your stories. Start asking whether your story has made anyone feel something different. Start asking whether people are staying with you. Start asking whether you are activating and disrupting enough to stop them from checking out. Your stories are the most intimate selling space that you have, more than your feed, more than your emails, because you have that daily opportunity to sell to people. They are there daily, they are sequential, and they disappear, which means every single one is an opportunity to create an experience that is going to move somebody in a different way. But if you treat them as information, if you treat them as updates, if you treat them as announcements, if you're going through the motion of putting something on your stories because you haven't posted today, they're not going to be received that way. You have to treat them as stories, give them a thread, build in disruption, stop optimizing for who sees them and start optimizing for what happens to the people who stay. Because those investments don't happen at the call to action. That call to action on your final slide should just make it easy for them to buy from you. It happens in every slide before it that's building it up. So hopefully this has disrupted how you see your Instagram stories. Maybe it has reinvigorated and created some excitement about new ways that you can start thinking about your stories, and that you show up, whether it's today, tomorrow, on those Instagram stories, and people go, whoa, this feels different. This is not what I was expecting. This is a depth. This is a different visual. This is something that I just can't help but consume, right? This is how we build these communities of people that are really loyal to your brand, that don't just want to check in with what's going on. They want to be in your world. They want to feel like they belong. They want to see what's coming next. They're excited. They can't wait to get into your stories and they can't wait to buy. I'm Rachel Pearson and this is Rich Work. Thanks for tuning in to Rich Work. I'd love it if you left a review. It helps other women to find us. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at rachelpearson.co for a different take on premium positioning, one that's not about fitting a box. See you next week.